shouldn't be building an agent just for the sake of having an agent, nor are agents the default response to everything.
The risk of waiting is also too high. If you don't embrace this change, you'll get obsolete and will likely fall behind forever.
Enterprises are struggling to figure out how do they manage the life cycle of the AI agents, which is, again, you can call it as AI ops for AI agents.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining this special edition of Tredence's Beyond Possible Dialogues. My name's Alex, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. Joining me today are three leaders and close friends that I have the privilege of working with. Over the next few minutes, we're going to go and talk about how organizations are looking at agentic AI and moving from concept to production. We're going to cover some of the common pitfalls and some practical examples of how to get started. With all the hype and pace of innovation, I'm sure many people feel like they need an agent to just understand where to start. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited to be on this podcast today to talk about how Tredence and Google Cloud are helping our, different kind of customers with their different, various complex challenges. And also excited to be on the same room with my friends Unmesh and Salah, where we talk about AI agents day in, day out.
Hey everyone, hey Alex, Unmesh, Maruti, thank you very much and really happy to join the show. The work you guys are doing to shed lights on these most complex topics is fantastic, frankly, and I'm honored to be part of this conversation today.
Hi everybody, great to be here and thanks for inviting me here. I'm Unmesh Kulkarni. I'm the Senior Vice President of AI at Tredence, a specialist services provider in the field of data and AI. In my role, I work very closely with our customers on their AI implementations, and I also work very closely with our partners like Google. So I have a very vantage point, and I'm very happy to be here to share it and also learn from our partners here. Thank you.
Awesome. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to really unpack how AI agents and multi-agent systems are really disrupting how businesses do business. With all the hype and the pace of innovation, I'm sure many people feel like they need probably an agent to understand, where to start. And how even to interpret everything going on. Lucky for us today, we've got Unmesh, Salah, and Maruti to unpack this topic. Let's go ahead and dive on in. So Unmesh, Maruti, Salah, you all sit at the intersection of technology and business transformation. Together, Unmesh and Maruti, you just co-authored an article on how to take AI agents and multi-agent systems from concept to production. And we've all heard about are agents actually making it in production? Are they actually delivering an impact? What I'd love to start with is, from each of you, is there a specific experience or challenge that helped you or drove you to publish this blog? And Mesh, would you mind kicking it off for the group?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Alex. And I would say that, the way this article, the blog was born was very organic, right? As part of the strategy and implementation work that we do with our customers, I get to interact with a lot of very senior AI, data, and business leaders. And I clearly see that there is a widespread excitement about the evolution of AI agents and application of agents. But there was also a need for clarity. There's confusion about how to take the pilots, the POCs that people have developed over the last 2 years, and take them to production. There were questions about, ROI, governance. There are questions about common themes like what are these agentic systems, right? How should I get started with it? What should be my right platform? So we were getting these questions, and with Maruti and Salah and others, we were constantly kind of responding and addressing these concerns. So we thought, why not just list out the most common questions we get and address them through a series of blogs. So that's exactly why the blog happened. Now I can just point everybody to the blog and we can move on to the business outcomes part. So that's the genesis or groggy.
So Maruti, based on everything Unmesh just said, could you talk a little bit about the pace of innovation within Google Cloud that kind of helped drive the blog on your end?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. Like Unmesh mentioned, I think the core challenge or the main challenge enterprises are facing is to keep up with the latest advancements that are happening, adapt to, and ultimately how they can take advantage of this technologies and products to build the new AI agents. Right now, on one hand, companies like Google are coming up with latest advancements, starting from the model versions, the way the Gemini models or flagship models have evolved over the time, and also the tools to actually build agents from application unified platform, starting from application level utilities or tools or products, and also the infrastructure level. Google is advancing or building this kind of at a rapid pace, this products and tools. Now, on the other hand, partners like Tredence are actually helping handhold our customers to take their use cases to production. And now, if you see, it's kind of evident and crucial for both of us, like Google Cloud and Tredence, to partner and collaborate and come up with these kind of sharing our experience from the field, and even help people understand, clear the noise and get the signals in terms of how should they build AI agents and take them from, like Unmesh mentioned, pilot or POC or idea to production. And that I kind of the main motivation for us to come up with not just one blog. We just started with one blog, but the idea is to come up with a series of blogs. So keep a tab on the blog pages that Tredence has, the website.
Awesome. Salah, what would you add here as we kind of look at the that journey companies are going on the vision of concept to production?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And great points from Maruti and Unmesh. And one thing I'd echo is it's not necessarily always technology that's the short end of the stick. It's often perfection is the enemy of progress, right? Rather than mulling and having a perfect plan, even in the face of agentic AI, taking that first step early is critical. So we're seeing an incredible pace of innovation within Google Cloud, and with that really comes a responsibility to ensure our customers can actually harness these capabilities to drive real business outcomes. So that's really where our superpowers lie, in sort of shortcutting that process, and where our partners become, like yourselves, become absolutely crucial. They're the ones really who are doing all the work on the ground, working hand in hand with customers to translate the power of technology into tangible business outcomes, to solve their specific and unique problems and challenges. So as the two gentlemen co-authored the article, it really was born from the need to provide a more clear roadmap for our partners, as well as customers, to navigate this exciting new landscape of agentic AI and successfully taking these powerful concepts to production.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, if we go back to where Unmesh started with even some of the confusion that existed in the market and the purpose of that blog, Maruti, one of the questions I think you might be really well positioned to answer is, with all of this confusion on agents and then traditional software and Gen AI, can you really describe to our listeners what exactly is an AI agent? How should they be thinking about it?
Every conversation or every blog starts trying to address this question: what is an AI agent? I think because every organization, every enterprise has kind of a same foundation of the definition, but also they try to adapt or kind of define in a way which is more suitable for their needs, right? So, but again, very high level, zooming out from a Google point of view, or after talking to a lot of partners and customers, I think we try to keep it very simple, right? Think of an AI agent is kind of a software application that people are used to writing or building. But again, here you're relying on a large language model or a reasoning layer to actually decide the flow of the application. So in a way, you're actually letting the software application take actions on behalf of the user. So basically, in the technical way, if you say, the software program uses the LLM or the reasoning layer, which within Google, or we call it as a brain, which actually reasons and then builds a plan. And now again, if you talk about reasoning, which is more like when if a user sends a request to a AI agent, it actually takes that and kind of distills or breaks down into subtasks or do like chain of thought of prompting different algorithms, and then it kind of builds a plan, and then agent kind of executes that by taking advantage of what we call tools. Now, tools, again, think of a way for these LLMs or agents to talk to external world, whether it's it's maybe APIs or databases or even enterprise systems. And I think that is where even enterprises are struggling, and that is where I think Google is building a lot of products to simplify these things, like our ADK, the Agent Development Kit, which is an open source framework to simplify the low-level tasks or aspects of building AI agents and make it very easy. And also the Gemini Enterprise, which we kind of launched just yesterday, which kind of heavily focus on how to bring your enterprise systems very close to interfaces or your AI agent. That way, you don't need to worry about the underlying challenges or aspects of managing those, connections or integrations, etc. And then third, I think, end of the day, these AI agents are to augment humans. So now, end of the day, I think you need to figure out how to make your existing applications agentic in nature, and also have an advance or enhance the way users usually typically interact with these AI agents.
That's a great point. And I think, there's some remarkable capabilities coming out from Google Cloud. And many organizations are trying to figure out, where do they get started? How do they leverage agentic AI? And, is it a agent? Is it multiple agents? And I think the reality is it can be sometimes hard to even understand, how our organization's doing this successfully. Unmesh, could you give an example for our group about a practical real world example of a multi-agent system and what it looks like and, how a business is using it?
It's so hard because there are so many really good examples we have seen in the last 12 to 18 months. Let me pick one that has recently won an industry award for its architecture and the outcomes it delivered to the organization. Here we worked with a CDO and CMO of a large CPG company. It used to take them about 3 months to launch a campaign. Multiple regions, multiple languages, very complex businesses. And with agentic solution, we deployed agents. One agent actually analyzing the past campaign performance, understanding what resonates well with a particular audience type, right? Another agent that will generate new content dynamically. So it can just be refined by the creative teams, but a lot of early iterations could be done with just issuing prompts to AI models. The third one, which is very interesting, is an agent that actually checked if the generated marketing content is actually compliant with the company's policy. Is it on brand? Those kind of things, right? And finally, an agent that actually helps you launch and integrate with the marketing resource management processes and the backend systems like that. So now you look at an agentic solution, which if you are a marketing manager, now you, instead of launching a campaign in 3 months, you're launching 4 different campaigns. You're taking content for a major market, and with models like Google's new Nano Banana, you can quickly use it to create content for a smaller regional market in maybe a local language, right? So massive ROI. You've seen that the company was able to shrink its campaign launch time. The customer experience metrics have gone up, and they have obviously been able to reduce the cost substantially. So that's one of my favorite examples of how agents come together to solve a business problem.
That's a wonderful example, Unmesh. And one of my favorite pieces of that example is a lot of times there's a lot of companies who are saying, oh no, AI agents, how are they going to replace our workforce? This is a great scenario where they're augmenting the workforce. They are taking something and being able to do it at a scale that was previously never possible, never cost effective to run these campaigns at scale, and enable this level of personalization and this response time using their existing team in place. Now, as we look at uses of agentic AI and multi-agent systems, Salah, you have a really unique perspective kind of based on where you sit within Google Cloud and the partners and the customers you interact with. Would love to get your point of view on how you're seeing agents and multi-agent systems get traction from where you sit.
Yeah, great question, Alex. And Unmesh, there was a very inspiring example in CPG. We often talk about what are the right examples, and there is no such thing as a right example. The ones that deliver value are the right examples. So I think you touched on that. So Google has a really profound culture of dogfooding and just relentless self-improvement. One of our 10 company philosophies is that great just isn't good enough, which is why we keep disrupting ourselves. At Google, since the earliest Palm models to our latest Gemini models, Nano Bananas of the world, we've just been iterating, course correcting, and repeating that virtuous cycle with customers, partners like yourselves, and analysts. So that said, every technology and business solution that we offer, it has a generative and AI component baked into the heart of the solution. And we've gone really past that single agent experience that we were probably experimenting with 12 months ago, not too far off, to very complex multi-agent workflows, orchestrations, and so forth. So we're integrating at Google, we're integrating it directly into all of our products to enhance developer experience, to enhance our data scientists experience. Think of tools like Code Assist, for instance, which really acts as an AI-powered collaborator for developers, or data agents that really streamlines things like data engineering and pipeline science workflows. Let's not also forget what Maruti talked about earlier. Yesterday, we announced Gemini Enterprise, which is really a foundational shift in positioning our agentic platform as that front door for AI in the workplace. Which really brings me to the next point, which is that it's not about the agent, it's the workflows. Rethinking and reimagining entire workflows and how SOPs and businesses are done. So, for example, we talked about Nano Banana earlier, the amount of work and acceleration we've seen around creatives, marketing, and personalizing presentations, say, for our customers using similar Gemini models. It's very real. It's happening. But none of these are like disparate tools. Thomas shared a anecdote yesterday. It was like 246 interactions a day. I think that's at the low end, I believe, because the customers I'm speaking with, they're just like extensively using it, and we're accelerating the demand and the outcomes and the outputs of it. No one is talking about hallucinations anymore. There is a reason why, and that's because the controls and the guardrails we have in place go far beyond the hallucination challenge we had about 12, 18 months ago. But again, none of these are like disparate tools. The outcomes are exponentially better when multiple agents and tools come together as part of a business workflow. This is something that was never possible before at the scale of a business like Google Cloud. It's this rewiring that we're talking about, about our products and internal processes that's really transformative.
Absolutely. It is remarkable to see what you all are doing. And it's really, as a partner of Google Cloud, seeing how you all leverage it internally, and then also how that translates to the value customers are seeing is just fascinating, and it's changing every single day. Now, I think for this group here, one of the things as we talk about change and the pace of innovation is there's a lot of pitfalls. And I think there's also a lot of lessons learned over this time. I'd love to maybe start, and maybe a few of you can chime in, but Unmesh, maybe you kick it off for us. As all of the opportunities with this, it almost seems endless. What are some of these lessons learned or pitfalls that you've personally seen or heard about that organizations should be keeping an eye out for?
That's another great question, because surveys and analyst reports have repeatedly pointed out that a huge fraction of the POCs and pilots actually don't make it to the production, or they don't deliver the ROI that we expect, right? Now, our experience has been somewhat different. And I think it's important to kind of glean some of these lessons, learn what is making these pilots not go to production, right? Part of it is just, people are trying so many different things that they are picking up things to actually take to production. So the numbers are a bit skewed. But generally speaking, AI leaders tend to overestimate the impact of agent. Now, it's such a big buzzword that everything is getting agentified. And we have to step back and be very choosy about where would you use a very semi-autonomous intelligent system, right? And make sure that the rest of the organization comes along, right? That the people are ready to do it, and you have the resources and the skill set and the training and everything. But part of it is, and this MIT study actually points it out, that organizations who tend to kind of overpromise or go and try to do it all by themselves are not as successful. So making sure that you have the right platform, the right clouds, the right implementation partner who's done it in many places, bringing them along as advisors, as implementation partners is actually one critical lesson or critical ingredient to success. The second one is actually very, very common for any new technology. When you are moving from pilot to production, you absolutely have to meet the need for governance and explainability. And this is especially true for something as semi-autonomous or autonomous as agents. So making sure that that's built in, as Salah mentioned earlier, the guardrails, the explainability of agents, the idea that you can ground it to truths, and there is obviously a human in the loop, especially early on as you build and roll out these systems. Those would be key lessons that I think I have gleaned through our implementations over the last couple of years. But I'm pretty sure, Maruti, Salah, you have seen many other implementations. So what's your take on these things?
Those are very good considerations you called out there. I think from a technical standpoint, I would want to add like three pitfalls or challenges or enterprise or customers are running into, right? One, because these are little different than the traditional applications, and also as this autonomy or the way AI agents run is changing or evolving, I think enterprises are struggling to figure out how do they manage the life cycle of the AI agents, which is, again, you can call it as AI ops for AI agents. I think, which again, I think Unmesh and Salah talked about how do you put like guardrails, governance. I think now it all boils down to how do you put like your agent operations, starting from how do you build, deploy, monitor, and also evaluate. I think evaluate is one of the biggest aspects or biggest challenges as people build AI agents. The second one is integration challenges. Now, AI agents are not powerful without actually taking advantage of the integrations, talking to their enterprise systems, databases, other agents as well, right? Other agents as well. Now, I think this is where people are struggling. And like Salah alluded to, and I mentioned that Gemini Enterprise was launched yesterday. It kind of provides a managed way of interacting with commonly used or highly used enterprise systems within an organization. And in third, again, this is not new, but there's security and safety aspects of building applications, right? I think Salah talked about guardrails again. I think putting the right guardrails in terms of what agents can access, what versus not, I think is the key as you design, as enterprises design their AI agents. And also the other thing is, from a responsibility or explainability point of view, how can you put safety measures so the AI agents are not executing or doing things that are harmful or not intended? I think these are some of the technical challenges or pitfalls we are seeing, as enterprises build their AI agents.
You shouldn't be building an agent just for the sake of having an agent, nor are agents the default response to everything. It generates a lot of excitement. Almost every conversation I'm in with CXOs and board members, and they're like, we want to do this agent, yet their data journey is not quite mature enough to actually drive outcomes with those through AI. The most important one is to really ensure that you, as a team, have executive buy-in. That's by far the most important thing, with a healthy dose of their expectations being grounded in reality. Because AI is not a panacea. Selling a business case on starting small and doing one thing really well, exceptionally well, learning from it, and scaling to additional use cases. Which is why I'd rather say that I'm fully grounded on the people element of the problem more than the technology side of it. Technology is great. It's evolving at a rate that people like myself can absolutely not keep up with it. Yet this is another reason why our partners are so crucial in this ecosystem. They're the ones who are bridging that gap and accelerating value. We rely on our partners to just help us scale the expertise needed to implement these complex solutions safely and effectively. Without the right skills and the right partners, even the most promising agentic AI projects can stall.
Unmesh, Maruti, Salah, thank you so much for the quick recap around some of the challenges and pain points and lessons learned over the last few months, years, and even just weeks or days in agentic AI innovation. The pace we're seeing is rapid, and the insights you've provided over the last several minutes have been really helpful in understanding where is the industry going, and how should organizations be thinking about this. Now, I'm sure each of you could spend also days, weeks, talking to organizations and advising them on how to be going forward. But we've only got a few minutes left. I'd love if each of you could maybe chime in for our listeners with, what's a single piece of advice you'd give our listeners to prepare their organizations for this next era of agentic AI?
Let me jump in. So, at Tredence, we see different companies, especially enterprises, at different points along the spectrum of agentic AI implementation. And some companies are actually taking a very cautious approach. And it's like, let me wait and see how it goes and kind of stop at pilots. And my advice to these organizational leaders is to actually take measured risks here, right? So understand the benefits and costs of agentic approach. Bet on the right cloud stacks, bet on the right implementation partners, but don't stop. Because the risk of waiting is also too high. If you don't embrace this change, you'll get obsolete and will likely fall behind forever, right? So it's important to pick the right partners. As far as implementation goes, it's actually useful to have a very good checklist of things. Like, what are the core considerations? What are the core platform choices? How do I go about it? And on that point, I would recommend everybody to actually start with our blog that's on tredence.com website, and actually use that as one of your checklist building tools. And of course, help feel free to reach out to us at Google or at Tredence if you are looking for some very concrete advice on taking your pilots and POCs to production scale.
You asked for advice, right? I think I tell this to a lot of partners and customers these days is, even though these are a new way of building applications, the core concepts or core foundations that are required for any software application, like security, like the team talked about in the last few minutes, security, how do you monitor these applications and how do you how do you manage the life cycle of these applications or AI agents is very crucial. I think as an organization, you should have like a foundation in terms of what the definition of AI agents, starting with the definition of AI agents and the purpose, the scope as you build, before you build. Like Salah mentioned, just don't build for the sake of building. So you need to have like a foundation philosophy as a guide, blueprint, I don't know what you call that, but a system in place which kind of talks about how these aspects, which are very crucial or foundation for building any application, applies to AI agents. I think then you can talk about how you can apply to different domains, different use cases, or different customer scenarios.
That's a great response, Maruti and Unmesh. And as you guys were talking, it just dawned upon me. One of my mentors in my early days, during when cloud native was a thing yet, he said something along the lines of find a workload, run a workload. And it applies regardless whether it's the AI era, or we may have AGI down the road in a couple of months or years. I think it's very applicable. My one piece of advice would be to start small, but think big. Absolutely. You have to have a grand vision. Just don't try to boil the ocean. Identify a specific high-impact business problem and build a proof of concept to demonstrate the value of agentic AI quickly. But at the same time, also have a very long-term vision for how this technology can really fundamentally wire your organization, your people, upskilling them, potentially even taking a dual approach of tactical execution and then this is strategic vision. That's really the key to not just adopting agentic AI, but also truly competing and thriving with it.
Wonderful. Unmesh, Maruti, Salah, I think you've given our listeners some really great piece of advice. Unmesh, take a measured risk. Maruti, have that foundation philosophy. And Salah, start small, but think big. And I really want to thank everyone for tuning in today for this Beyond Possible podcast. Maruti, Unmesh, Salah, this has been fantastic. I look forward to having you all next time. And I really appreciate your time today. Assuming one of these new AI agents doesn't take my job, I will be your host again. In the meantime, be sure to please check out Unmesh and Maruti's blog at Tredence.com and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.